Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I found a homily of Bishop Barron entitled Mercy and the Cross, and he gave this at the 2016 World Youth Day. Now, I'm pretty sure you have never seen this homily of Bishop Barron. I personally have not seen the homily either because I want to live react to it. So we're going to watch this entire sermon, and then I will provide my commentary at the end of what I found helpful. And so hopefully it won't only help me, but it'll also help you and your Christian walk in life. Let's go ahead and watch what he has to say. Mercy and the cross. I think he's going to get into a very gospel-centered message. Let's see what Bishop Barron has to say.
You know, I had a talk all prepared for tonight, but I'm not going to use it. Is that good or bad? I don't know. But I tell you, when I heard about the death of Father Jacques yesterday, on my way here to Krakow, it's just stayed in my mind, all of yesterday, all of today, in a kind of haunting way. And I thought it might have been the Lord's way of telling me, I want you to tell these 20,000 young people something about that. You know, we live in the age of martyrs right now. The 20th century had more martyrs than all the previous centuries combined. And the 21st century is off to a rather horrific start. People dying for their Christian faith all over the world. Most recently, just yesterday, Father Jacques, who was killed while saying Mass in the church of Saint Etienne, Saint Stephen, the first martyr. Martyrdom has marked Christianity from the beginning, and it marks it today. Friends, I want to talk to you tonight very briefly about the cross and in the presence of Jesus himself. The cross. Do you know if someone came from the ancient world in a time machine to this place right now, and they were told this was a religious ceremony, and we were gathered around a cross, they would think we had lost our minds. Because there is nothing in the ancient world more horrific, more terrifying than the cross. The cross was a kind of state-sponsored terrorism. It was the Roman Empire's way of saying, if you go against us, that's what we'll do to you. There was no more denigrating, humiliating, and dehumanizing way to die than the cross. When Paul says in Philippians that Jesus accepted even death on a cross, they knew what he meant. They meant dying in the worst way possible. What was crucifixion? Someone was stripped of their clothes. They were publicly humiliated. They were made to carry the cross beam through the streets. Nailed then to the upright, they were exposed to everybody. You know how the gospel has preserved the mockery of Jesus? They mock him. That was part of the humiliation, the dehumanization. Someone suffered for hours, in some cases days. And when they died, their body was left on that cross. They couldn't imagine a worse suffering than crucifixion, which is why our word excruciating comes from the Latin ex cruce, from the cross. Why in the world was it needed? See, that's the question, everybody. Why in the world was the cross necessary? Someone asked the great Saint Anselm this question. Why couldn't God just have pronounced a word of forgiveness from heaven and gotten this whole thing over with? Why was that necessary? St. Anselm replied, "Oh, you've not considered the weight of sin." See, what's sin, everybody? What is sin? It's not just a series of little, peccadillos, little things that we do wrong. Sin is a kind of condition. It's like a disease, like an addiction. It's a state in which we find ourselves. And you don't have to look very far, do you, to see evidence of it. It's everywhere. We're stuck. G.K. Chesterton said, we're all in the same boat, and we're all seasick. We're all stuck in this condition. God could have pronounced a word from on high, simply a word of forgiveness. But that would not have addressed the problem of sin. God, listen now, had to go into our sin so as to fix it from within. Go back to those passion narratives we read every Easter. What do we see? But all forms of human dysfunction. We see stupidity, we see hatred, we see violence, we see cruelty, we see institutional injustice, we see all of human dysfunction on display. Where did Jesus go? Where did he go? He went into it. Or better, in the language of the Bible, he took all of it upon himself and paid the price. He did the work. He fought the battle. I wonder if some of you remember, it's about maybe 15 years ago now, the Columbine killings. Remember that? When the guy killed his classmates at Columbine High School outside of Denver. On the very day of the killing, there was a kind of psychologist or social worker who was telling the kids, are you ready to pronounce a word of forgiveness to the killers? Well, see, that was well-intentioned, but that's missing the point of what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not just a little word that we offer, something as blithe and easy as that. Forgiveness, everybody, is hard work. Forgiveness means entering into dysfunction, pain, and sin and addressing it. I'll give you an example. Just a few years ago, there was an Amish family. You know, the Amish ride in the little buggies, little carriages, horse-drawn carriages. There was a family, 2 parents and their son in the carriage. And behind them came a car filled with kind of rowdy teenagers. And they were mad that this carriage wasn't going fast enough. And so they drove around it, and then just to get them, they had a little rock or a brick, and one of them threw it at them, hoping just to hit the horse. Well, they hit the young man, and they killed him. Terrible, horrific tragedy. What did the parents do, the parents of that young man? They went to court when he was being tried. They testified on his behalf, urging the judge not to condemn him. The judge did condemn him, sent him to prison. And then every month, those parents came to prison and visited the young man who killed their son. That's forgiveness. Do you see what I mean? That's not an easy word. That's entering into sin and conquering it with the divine mercy. That's the cross. That's the cross. That's what it means. God taking upon himself all of our sin and swallowing it up in the ever greater divine mercy. Now, what has this done? And what's so moving to me tonight, especially to be here in Krakow, is that we can see it on display. The cross, the divine love that conquers the wickedness of the world, unleashes power. Oh, not the power of the world, not the weapons of the world, something far greater. Do you see how the cross of Jesus Christ, from the beginning of Christianity to today, is a kind of taunt? That was meant to terrify the whole world. The cross. There was nothing more horrific, nothing more terrifying. The first Christians held it up as if to say, you think that scares us? We're not afraid, because God's love, God's mercy has conquered all that the world can throw at it. That's why Paul says, I preach one thing, Christ and Him crucified. That's why up and down the ages, the great saints and martyrs have held up and embraced the cross. You know, when I came in, I was so moved to see the images there of Maximilian Kolbe, Jerzy Popowuszko, those great martyrs of the 20th century. Look at the power they unleashed, everybody. It's the power of the divine mercy correcting sin from the inside. The power of the divine mercy overcoming all the world can throw at it. John Paul, of course, is on all of our minds. The great scene in 1979 when John Paul came to Warsaw, and there was the whole communist government behind him, remember? And John Paul spoke of God and of creation and of redemption and of human rights and of human dignity. And as he spoke, as you well know, the crowd, much bigger than this, 1 million strong, began to chant, we want God, we want God, we want God. And perceptive analysts of the time knew at that moment the communist government was through. Even though they had all the nuclear weapons, they had all the armies, all the tanks, and all the guns. John Paul had something more powerful. That cross. That cross. And do you remember the scene? There was a mighty cross that was erected on that dais. It's more powerful than anything that's in the world. Here's my point now. I'm going to close with this. Our Christianity is not simply for our private consumption. Do you know what I'm saying, everybody? It's not just a little spirituality that we cultivate. Jesus said, you are salt and you are light. Do not put the light under a bushel basket. We Christians are meant to invade the world so as to transform it from the inside. How? How? Through the power of the cross. By doing what Jesus did, taking upon ourselves the dysfunction of the world, doing the hard work of forgiving love. That's what Père Jacques did yesterday, joining this long line, this noble army of Christian martyrs. Listen now, may all of you, filled with the wonderful enthusiasm of this moment, and who could not be moved during that Eucharistic procession? I was deeply moved seeing everybody, hearing the singing, seeing the martyrs of the 20th century. Who could not be moved by this? Good, good. But now, don't rest in it, but go forth to transform the world. Go forth. We do want God. We do want God, you're right. And we want God not just for ourselves. We want God for the world. We want God for the world. And we're meant to be salt and light and seed. And so go forth, everybody, with the power of Jesus' cross.
What an amazing speech. I don't even know where to begin. I guess where we can begin is where he ends, and to see what Bishop Barron is saying is that the cross of Christ, which was a terror and is now the taunt of Christianity, it was meant to defeat, but it is now our greatest power that sends us into the world able to suffer, able to even die for this faith, knowing that nothing in this world can be taken from us. And by living not for power and not for pride, but in this counterintuitive way of selfless love for God, rendering it back to Him as sacrifice, and for our neighbor, the world can be transformed. I think we can think about it this way. Oftentimes in modern societies, we think that transformation can come about by human effort of refining and reforming processes or bureaucracies, maybe not the right word, democracies, institutionalized systems that will lead to progress. But I think what Christianity and I think what Bishop Barron could be saying, at least this could be an application from what he is saying, is that progress doesn't ever really happen. It's not about progress as much as it is transformation. It's not about an external conformity as much as it is about an internal renewal and transformation that is done by the Holy Spirit through us perceiving mercy, receiving mercy, and we can only receive that mercy and that love and that grace because of the cross. It was interesting. I don't remember who he said it, but the idea that why didn't God just pronounce forgiveness as if it was a declaration, as if forgiveness was just something God could declare? Now, it seems to me in God's omnipotence that that is something that he could do, but it was more fitting that he sent his son so that we might be invited into the divine life. There is a theosis touching there on the theology of the incarnation, that Jesus is a recapitulated head, as St. Irenaeus eloquently exposits in his theological discourse on the incarnation, showing that we have been united with Christ in such a way because he became human that wouldn't have happened otherwise if God would have just legally declared it from heaven. Of course, he could do that. But God, I think, had a bigger plan because he sees a great purpose in suffering. He sees a great opportunity that all of us have to be transformed by what? By the cross that we all carry in our day-to-day lives. So this speech was given almost 10 years ago, and I can't help but think about the young people that were in the crowd that day. I'm sure that God has used many of them mightily in the different arenas that they participate in their daily lives. And I can't help but imagine, much like Billy Graham touched a generation in America, if Bishop Barron did not touch a generation here with this powerful, powerful speech about Jesus to all of these people. I don't know exactly where he said, but I'm pretty sure it's in Europe. It was not in the United States. Wow, what an amazing speech. As Bishop Barron said in the beginning, he just kind of went off, he went ad lib. There was an event, there was a martyrdom, an assassination, a killing that took place the day prior, and that inspired Bishop Barron to talk about mercy, to talk about the cross. I did a video recently of Bishop Barron talking about kind of this virtuistic circle of mercy and love. Mercy is given, love is received. Once love is received, it can't help but extend mercy. And it's kind of this beautiful snowball effect, this virtuous snowball effect of mercy producing love and love producing mercy. And I think that that is precisely what we see in the cross and how it leads to transformation. There was a famous missionary that once said, and Bishop Barron quoted him in this speech, "I preach nothing but Christ crucified." Makes me wonder, maybe as we go out in our workspace, maybe as we go to our families, maybe as we, even in our own personal lives, if we don't meditate and contemplate the cross more and what Jesus Christ did for us, and we don't go forth and actually preach the cross to those around us. It's a very, very different message than the one that they're hearing in the world. It's not a popular message, but it's a transformative one. It's the only thing that can actually produce virtue and a true humanism, as Bishop Barron talks about. We want humanism. Well, you're not going to get it from secularity. You're only going to get it from the cross and Jesus Christ and having the Holy Spirit come in you by faith and transform you into the person that you need to be. And the only way you're going to be the person that you need to be is if you carry your cross. Jesus said, if you want to be like him, take up your cross and follow him. All right, that's all I have for this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Remember that Christianity is Christ. Without him, there is no Christianity. Don't you forget that. I guess we could throw in the cross, according to this video. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.